सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। अन्तर्यश्च बहिर्विधूततिमिरं ज्योतिर्मयं शाश्वतं स्थानं प्राप्य विराजते विनमताम् अज्ञानमुन्मूलयन् पश्यन् विश्वमपीदमुल्लसति यो विश्वस्य पारे परः तस्मै श्रीरमणाय लोकगुरवे शोकस्य हन्त्रे नमः। तस्मै श्रीरमणाय लोकगुरवे शोकस्य हन्त्रे नमः। The job of a true spiritual teacher is twofold. Number one, detect the wrong line of thinking of the disciple and then show the correct path. So like a true teacher, Bhagavān Ramana Maharshi in the first two verses points out what is the common mistake committed by all of us. Let us chant the first two verses. Karturajñaya prapyate phalam karma kim param karma tajjadam kriti mahodadhau patana karanam phalamashashvatam gati nirodhakam. Yes. So here in the first two verses, Bhagwan is pointing out where exactly we have gone wrong. So yesterday as we were discussing, in life we come to certain conclusions, we make our philosophies according to the observation of our own experiences. We analyze our experience and then according to that experience we form certain conclusions. And what is the common conclusion we all make? We are all seeking happiness. So what do we find in life? We find that whenever I am able to fulfill my desire, I am happy. This is what we observe. Whenever I fulfill my desire, I am happy. And when am I able to fulfill my desire? When I work hard to gain that desire. So hard work leads to results from the world. Harder the work, better the results. Better the results, greater the happiness. So therefore, what is the equation I make in life? The equation which I make is happiness comes out of work. Now since in life we are all seeking happiness, we are all seeking fulfillment, we are all seeking joy, peace, And the source of all joy and peace, according to us, is hard work. So we equate this hard work itself to be the supreme, because it gives us the supreme. So what is the equation we make? Karma eva param. Action itself is the highest. So everywhere we find people appreciating hard work. In every field we find, it is not only in our life, in others' life also we find. A student works hard, gains more mark, he becomes more happy. A scientist works hard in the laboratory, comes out with some inventions, and then he is found to be happy. A sports person works hard, gets some Olympic medal, he is found to be happy. A politician works hard, does good canvassing, he wins the election, he is seen to be happy. So therefore, what do we conclude? Happiness is directly related to hard work, meaning karma. So once we have formed this philosophy, naturally what is the kind of lifestyle we will have? We will have a workaholic lifestyle. Because what we want is happiness. Happiness comes from work. So let me put forth maximum work. So the whole life we put forth effort in working. So such people, such workaholic people, many times they ask, what is the use of attending satsang? What do you get from satsang? What is the use of meditation? What is the use of going to temple? They are all waste. What has to be done? Work hard. That's it. Such people are called karma kandi. Don't think that karma kandi means only those people who are doing homa, havana, etc. No. Anyone who feels that action can give everything in life, there is no need of spirituality, there is no need of God. Work hard, get the result from the world, be happy. Anyone who follows this philosophy is called a karma kandi. And in this world we will find most of them belong to this category. Now here, Bhagwan in the very first verse itself detects this wrong line of thinking in the seeker, and now he is correcting it. So how to correct it? Correction can be done only when he proves that this statement is not right. You are equating work with happiness. I can prove it to you that this very same karma can make you unhappy, can make you miserable. Karma kim param, how can action be supreme? It is not possible, because kriti mahaudadhau patanakaranam phalam ashashvatam gati nirodhakam. The very same action which you say is the very source of bliss, it can become patanakaranam, it can become the very cause of your downfall. The result which you gain out of action, it is ashashvatam, impermanent. And thus, this very same action can become an obstacle in your path of progress. Gati nirodhakam. Now we have to analyze how our own actions can become a curse. What is our understanding as of now? Work is happiness. Now Bhagwan says work cannot be happiness. Rather, when actions are performed unintelligently, it can bind you. It can make your life miserable. Now we have to analyze this aspect. How is it that our own actions can bring us misery? What are the defects in action? Now please remember, whatever Bhagavān Ramana Maharshi is telling here, it has the support of the scriptures. The very same idea is mentioned in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gītā, which is that verse, Yajñārthāt karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. There is a 9th verse in the 3rd chapter. Any action performed other than for the sake of yajna will lead to bondage. Karma can become a bandhana. Tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. So the very same idea is presented here. Now we have to see what are the defects of action. Superficial analysis, we think action leads to happiness. But now on deeper analysis, we find this very same action can lead to bondage. How? What are we all seeking in life? We are seeking happiness. So yesterday we had seen we are seeking how much happiness? Infinite happiness for infinite period of time. All of us, irrespective of religion, caste, creed, nationality, gender, we are all seeking happiness, infinite happiness for infinite period of time. Now the question is, can action fulfill this desire of mine? So when we analyze, we find certain defects in action. Defect number 1, every action is finite. What does it mean? Every action is limited by time and space. Whatever actions we perform, it begins at a particular time, it ends at a particular time. So time-wise limitation is there. Space-wise limitation is there. Whatever action is performed within a certain space. Right? Again, this action is limited by the capacity of the doer. Whoever is performing this action, his bodily abilities are limited. His emotional and intellectual capacities are limited. His talents are limited. So naturally, such an action born out of a limited individual, performed in a limited time and limited space, has to produce only limited result. Limited action can give only limited result. Now, limited result can give you only limited happiness. Yes or no? Yes. Limited results can give only limited happiness. Now, will you be happy with limited happiness? Will you be totally contented with limited happiness? No. There is a craving for more and more. So what is a normal tendency? The moment you stop becoming happy after enjoying the result, what is the natural tendency? The tendency is to do the same action again. Correct? So that you can be a little more happy for some more time. Karma phala, let us say sukha. To extend the sukha, what do? Again you perform the same action. Now what is happening? There is a bondage. You are bound to do the same action. See that? There is a bondage. You are stuck in a cycle, in a vicious cycle. Now remember, this action is finite. Can finite plus finite become infinite? No. Finite plus finite is always finite. You are performing all finite actions and you are expecting infinite happiness. Is it possible? It is not possible. Now what is the foolishness we are doing? Bhagwan says, Kriti Maha Udadhau. Maha Udhadi means ocean. Udhadi, reservoir of water. Maha Udhadi, a big reservoir of water, meaning ocean. What kind of ocean? Kriti Maha Udhadi, ocean of action. Now what do you mean ocean of action? Lot of actions. Innumerable actions. Unlimited number of actions. In various fields. In various capacities. Different places. Different times. We are all busy performing action. Just go to the roadside and you will find traffic jam everywhere. What are those people doing? Everyone is busily performing action. For what? Remember, we are all searching for happiness. But now we want to be infinitely happy with finite actions. Is it possible? This is defect number 1. Phalam ashashvatam. These results are ashashvatam, impermanent, time bound. How can this time bound results of limited actions make you totally fulfilled and contented? Not possible. Thus, it leads to gati nirodhakam. It prevents you from further progress. Just like a tire stuck in the muck. It is rotating, but is the vehicle moving forward? No, it is stuck. This is the first defect of action. Do you agree with this? Yes. Defect number 2. The results which actions can give, are they certain or uncertain? Any action you perform in this world, no doubt the result has to come from the world, but there is no guarantee that you will get the result what you expect. Every result in this world is uncertain, unpredictable. Now what happens when you are attached to an unpredictable result? When you are attached to unpredictable results, it can give only stress, worry, tension, strain, anxiety, fear, etc. Now tell me, are you happy in these negative emotions? What is the cause of your misery? Your own actions. A person who says action is happiness because action gives results gives happiness, such a person has made an unhealthy combination of result and happiness. He has tied down result with happiness. Nothing wrong in desiring happiness, but the moment you tie down these two together, the result of your action and happiness, what happens? You cannot but be miserable because results are always uncertain. Take any field, results are always uncertain. A student studies, what about the marks? Marks are uncertain. A person strives hard to get a job. Will he get it or not? Uncertain, unpredictable. I want to marry this particular girl, this particular boy. Uncertain. Fine, marriage is over. Will I have a child or not? Uncertain. Will I have a boy child or a girl child? Uncertain. Fine, the child may be born. What about its health? Uncertain. Tell me one thing which is certain in this world. What about your own life? Nalini dalagata jalamati taralam tattva jivitam atishaya chapalam. The breath which I have taken in, whether it will go out or not, no guarantee. Isn't it? In this life, everything is uncertain. In this uncertain world, now you are expecting permanent happiness. Is it possible? Impossible. Then how can you say action gives happiness? This is defect number 2. So ashashvata means results of these actions are unpredictable. Defect number 3. When actions are performed, it brings in results. And what is your attitude towards any result? There can be only 2 attitudes, raga or dvesha. You like what you get, you don't like what you get. Correct? These are the 2 reactions. Whatever you get in life, these are the only possible 2 reactions. You like it or you don't like it. Karma, karma phala, next is raga dvesha. After raga dvesha, what comes? If you like it, you want more. Same karma. If you don't like it, you change the action. Again, it comes to karma only. Now, as you are performing actions just based on your likes and dislikes, what happens to your raga dvesha? It increases. When actions are performed solely based on raga dvesha, every action intensifies your likes and dislikes. And this likes and dislikes is nothing but the vasanas in your mind, the impressions in your mind. A time comes when your likes and dislike becomes very strong to such an extent that you know something is right, but just because you don't like it, you don't have the guts to do it. You know something is right, but you don't like it, then you don't do it. You know very clearly what is right, what is wrong, but you are not able to do it because of your strong vasanas, because of your strong likes and dislikes. In short, you become a slave of your mind. Now, can you say your actions are giving happiness? Every action is binding you. Every action is making you a slave of your mind. Now, what do you want to become in life? A slave of your mind or a master of your mind? We all want to be the masters of our mind, isn't it? Mind is our instrument. I must dictate terms to my mind. Now today, what is the situation? Mind is dictating terms to me. I have become a helpless slave in the hands of my own mind. Who is responsible? My own actions are responsible. My own unintelligent actions are responsible. Now can you say action is giving me happiness? How many defects over? 3. Defect number 4. Whenever you say actions give happiness, remember you are presupposing that the world is the source of your happiness. I perform action, action gives results from the world, so therefore who is the cause of my happiness? Happiness is not coming from me, happiness is coming from the world. Now once you have made this equation in your life, naturally you become a slave of the world. Isn't it? Where will you search for happiness? Not within, you will only search happiness in the world. In short, you will become the slave of the world. You are behind things, you are behind beings, you are behind situations in life. You are always busy changing the world around you, never attempting to look within. So what have you become? You have become a slave of the world. All because of what? Because of your action. Now can you say your action is giving you happiness? Karma kim param. How many defects over? 4. Defect number 5. Every action makes your identification with your BMI stronger and stronger. What is BMI? Body, mind, intellect. When you are performing action with your instrument, it presupposes your identification with your instruments. So with every action performed, you are becoming more and more identified with your instruments. Your kartrutva bhava, the sense of doership, becomes stronger and stronger. Your identification with the body becomes stronger and stronger. Meaning what? Meaning your ignorance is becoming stronger and stronger. According to spirituality, you are infinite consciousness. Now in this case, what is happening? When your identification with the body becomes stronger and stronger, every action is providing another wheel to cover you from the truth, which covers you from the truth, which prevents you from seeing the truth. This is also because of action. Because every action you perform it with the sense that I am doing it, isn't it? So first you have to define I. Who is this I? I, this body. So every action strengthens your identification with your instruments, and this identification is strengthened means your ignorance is strengthened. Meaning you go further and further away from the truth. This point we will be discussing later in detail. In fact, that is the very core of this text. For the time being, let us just keep it as a point. Action intensifies our identification with our instruments. This is defect number 5. Defect number 6. What is a defect? When you perform an action in this world, it is karma. Every action has to bring in karma phala. Suppose you are not enjoying that karma phala in this birth. What will happen? You will have to take birth again in order to enjoy those karma phala. Meaning, every action is ensuring that you have to come back to this world again and again. Meaning, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. You are bound to this world. Now tell me, is it happiness? Coming back again and again to this world. What kind of world? Janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi, dukkha, doshanu darshanam. Bhagavan says, this world is full of pain. Anityam, asukham lokam. Bhagavan himself is calling this world as anityam, asukham. Birth is pain. Death is pain. Old age is pain. Disease is pain. Separation from the near and dear ones is pain. Union with terrible people, that is also pain. In short, this world is full of pain. Do you want to come back again and again? You may say no, but who is it that is bringing you back again and again to this world? It is this karma. Now tell me, Can you call this karma param, the source of all bliss? No. So this is called analysis. You start analyzing deeper, not just superficially. In superficial analysis, you find that, oh, hard work is happiness. Go deeper. Is it really happiness? This is where we get guidance from the teachers. This is where we get guidance from the scriptures. That is why we have to study the scriptures. Otherwise, what is the use of studying scriptures? The scriptures tell you the whole thing in a different light. Every one of us in this world, we are going through experiences. But remember, everyone is not becoming wise. Experiences we all go through uniformly. But very, very rare few become wise with their experience. How is it that only rare few become wise and others remain otherwise? How is it? The difference is the faith in the scriptures, the faith in the teachers. Right understanding about life, right analysis of experiences can happen only when you study the scriptures. Only in satsang, the right way of thinking dawns in us. Otherwise, it is not possible. Mere experiences won't make you wise. If that is so, then all the old people should be wise. We don't see that. Isn't it? Because who has gone maximum experiences? Old people. Many times we don't see them to be wise. Right. So therefore, what does Bhagavan say? Karma kim param. How can this action be supreme? How can this action give you happiness? In fact, actions performed unintelligently can only bind you to this world. Can make you a slave of your mind. Can make you only a slave of this world. This action, can you call it to be supreme? Impossible. Are you able to understand the logic? Oh, we never knew that action is so dangerous. Yes. Simple, innocent actions. Yes, even innocent actions also can be very dangerous. But Bhagavan, what is the mistake we have done? Just by performing action, we are bound to this world. We suffer so much. What is the mistake we have done? Where have we gone wrong? That every action is binding us. Any action you do, and the worst part is you cannot help but act. You cannot escape action. Once you are born, you are bound to act. You are bound to perform action. And now the tragedy is every action is binding you. Now the question is, what is that mistake we have done? Bhagavan says, you have done a big mistake in your life. And what is that big mistake? You have forgotten God. This is the mistake. What is the mistake you have done? You have forgotten God. You say action gives happiness, action gives happiness. Fool, have you ever thought what is that because of which you are able to perform action? Have you ever thought of it? You give so much of importance to action, fine. We see people saying all this. Work hard. Nothing is impossible. Success is yours. This, that, etc. But this fellow has never analyzed what is it that gives us ability to act, to perform action. Bhagavan says, this is the biggest mistake you have done. What is the mistake? You have forgotten God, from whom actions come. He is the one who has given you this body with which you are functioning. In order to perform action, you need body, right? Who is maintaining this body? The kidney is functioning, liver is functioning, blood circulation is happening, digestion is happening. Who is making all this function? That higher intelligence who has given you the equipments to function. You forget him and you want to be happy? Impossible. That Supreme Lord who has given you this field to perform action, forgetting him, you want to be happy? Impossible. Forget it. That Supreme Lord who has given you the ability to act, forgetting him, you want to be happy? Impossible. So therefore, how can we correct this mistake? The greatest mistake is we have forgotten God. So what are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? We have to remember God every time we act. And this forms the very foundation for Karma Yoga. Let us chant this next verse. Ishwararpitam nechaya kritam chittashodhakam mukti sadhakam. Ishwararpitam nechaya kritam chittashodhakam mukti sadhakam. Yes, this very same action which can bind you, this action can act as a double-edged weapon. If handled unintelligently, it can harm you. But the very same action, if used properly, can cut off all the bondages and make you free. How action can make you free? In capsule form, Bhagavan gives this verse, which is the essence of Karma Yoga of the 3rd chapter. If action is performed with this attitude, then this action can become a blessing for you. What is the attitude? Ishvara arpitam. When actions are performed as a worship of the Lord, dedicated to God, na ichchaya kritam, without any desire for fruit, without any selfish desire, when actions are performed as a worship for the Lord, then what can it give us? Chitta shodhakam, it can purify our mind. And thus, mukti sadhakam, it can become a means for liberation. The very same action which is binding you, the very same action when performed with the right attitude, this action can free you. It can become a means to liberation. So in the 3rd chapter, Bhagavan Sri Krishna mentions these 4 points. So the essence of Karma Yoga, we can summarize it in 4. What are the 4 points? Number 1, Kartavya Nirvahanam. First one, Kartavya Nirvahanam, performance of one's duty. Point number 2, Samyak Acharanam, performing it as best as you can. Third one, Ishvara Arpana Buddhihi, performing it as a worship of the Lord. And the 4th one, Ishvara Prasada Buddhihi. When the results come, receive it with Prasada Buddhi. This is the essence of Karma Yoga. The whole thing is mentioned in the 3rd verse. Perform all actions as a worship of the Lord. This is the most important thing. Ishvara Arpana Buddhi. Why should we perform everything for the Lord? Because He is the one who has given us everything. Karma tajjadam. There is no action at all without Him. This body which is made of 5 elements, these 5 elements are inert by nature. Then how is it that this body is able to function? It is because of Him. He is the one who has made it sentient. He is the one who has made this body alive. The mind, the intellect, the body is functioning because of His touch of life. Otherwise, karma tajjadam. Karma is inert. There is no action at all possible. So He is the one who is making me capable of performing action. He is the one who has given the field. He is the one who has given us the talents, the abilities. He is the one who is even maintaining this instrument. When such a Lord is there, so naturally I must perform all actions for Him. All these actions must belong to Him. Even the results, who give? Karturajñaya prapyate phalam. You may perform action, but who is the one who is giving you the result? It is again He alone. Now see Bhagavān Ramana Maharshi, when he is composing the text, he first remembers God. Here Kartu means doer. Doer means who is the doer? The Supreme Lord. So even when Bhagavān Ramana Maharshi is praising the Lord or criticizing action, he starts with God. This is how our action should be. Whenever we perform any action, first remember God. Now, many times people come and ask, Swamiji, this dedication of action to God, I don't understand what it is. Performing all actions as a worship of God, Ishwar Arpitam, etc. Theoretically it's fine, but how to practice? Many times people come and ask. Now see, this question is natural. From where to start? Where to start? You must start first sitting silent. Sit all alone, preferably in the early morning when nobody is there to disturb you. Sit for meditation. What kind of meditation you are supposed to do? Not this advanced, being a witness to your thoughts and all. Not that. Not necessary. Those things come later. That is not the first step. What is the first step? The first step is being intensely aware that you are nothing. This is the first step. The first step in spirituality is to become aware that I am absolutely nothing. If you don't start from this, you will never be able to practice karma yoga. Impossible. So how will you know? In fact, how will you make your mind understand that I am nothing? Just keep looking at yourself. You don't need any scriptures. Just watch. Pay attention to everything that is happening in the body. In any way, have you any control over what is happening in the body? No. Just watch. Heart is beating. We don't know how the heart is beating. What is that intelligence because of which it is breathing? We don't know. We are breathing in and out. How it is functioning, we don't know. Even in deep sleep, we are able to breathe. We don't know how it is happening. The liver, the kidney, it is functioning. Digestion process is happening, we don't know. Right? So slowly what happens? You are grounded to the truth. The truth is, I know nothing. I am nothing. Every day when you meditate on these aspects, slowly, what happens is, you come to the ground reality. Oh Lord, I know nothing, I am nothing, I can do nothing. Start from there. Even this moving this finger, can you take the credit of it? We proudly proclaim that this act is mine, this I have done, etc. Forget about everything. Just moving this finger, can you say that you are doing it? Remember, any action you don't do, you have been given the ability to do. Understand this. You don't perform action, you are only given the ability to perform action. A simple act of this moving this finger. Just imagine how many complicated processes are involved. How many cells have to be activated? How many nerves have to be activated? Which part of the brain sends a signal? You don't know anything. How can I take credit for the action which is born out of this body? That body about which I know nothing. So this is called starting from the fundamentals, basics. Every day when you meditate like this, slowly you become more and more humble. Bhagwan, I am nobody. I am nothing. I may think myself about so many things, but really speaking, I know I am absolute zero. And then what happens? Slowly, your heart will be filled with gratitude. Oh Lord, so much you have given me. I never realized it. All these abilities are given by you. The senses are intact, the eyes are able to see, the ears are able to see, the brain is functioning. Bhagwan, everything has been given by you, even without my asking. Isn't it? Bhagwan, I think I don't deserve any of this. You have given me much more than what I deserve. So in those silent moments of meditation, your heart starts filling with gratitude. Your heart starts filling with love for God. Because He is the one who is giving you. From that one direction, there is unconditional love which is just pouring in. And that love is expressing itself as giving, giving, giving. Just list down how many factors are needed for you to walk on this planet Earth. How many factors are needed? Just list it down. Will you ever be able to list it down? You will find countless billion factors which are responsible for your existence upon earth. Countless billion factors. And remember, not even one factor is under your control. You need food, you need water, you need air, the right temperature, the right humidity, the right gravity. How many can you list? And foolishly we proclaim that I am great. Oh man, you are dust and you go back to dust. That is what Bible says. So first become dust. Then you are fit for spirituality. Not till then. Immature seekers directly sit for meditation, trying to watch the thoughts. I am the witness. Nothing will happen. You will be foolishly wasting your time. Thoughts arise in me, they are in me, I go back, I am the witness, consciousness, infinite consciousness. Fool you are. If your mind is unprepared at the seat of meditation, you will not be able to distinguish what is thought and what is consciousness. Everything will be a homogeneous blend, a mixture, a total confusion. You will merely prattle the words from the Upanishads, but no experience will take place. You may thunder forth, Aham Brahmasmi. Nothing will happen. At the most, yes, others who are listening may benefit. That is a different matter. Start from the fundamental. Start from ground zero level. Now, once you have filled your heart with this kind of love, this kind of gratitude, this kind of humility, then naturally a desire will come forth in your heart. And what is that desire? A desire to serve God. Oh God, you have given me so much gifts. Unasked, what can I do for you? Naturally this question will come. If you are a cultured person, this question will come. Suppose there is someone who is continuously giving you money, this, that, etc., not asking anything. Naturally, what will be your attitude? Your attitude will be, how can I give something back? Isn't it? This is a natural tendency. When we are aware that so much has been given to us, naturally we will have the tendency to give back. And this giving back is nothing but Ishvara Arpanam. It is born out of a deep understanding. It is born out of deep gratitude. It is born out of love. Bhagwan, what can I do for you? This sense of compulsion comes. And this will happen only when there is gratitude. Otherwise it will not come. But remember, the greatest curse with all of us is, the mind has this very bad habit of taking everything for granted. We have taken everything for granted. Health, we have taken for granted. Air, we have taken for granted. Food, we have taken for granted. Love from the parents, we have taken for granted. Everything we take it for granted. And once you take things for granted, remember, you are missing an opportunity to develop gratitude. A person who takes everything for granted, he can never be grateful. There's a beautiful story. I'm sure you must have heard. I myself might have told it many times. The story of the child and mother. I don't mind repeating it because I love it very much. So there was this child playing in the, dining hall. A calling bell ring. So the child goes and opens the door. There was this refrigerator mechanic. The refrigerator was not working well. So this mechanic comes, opens the refrigerator, finds that some components are not working well. So he removes that component, puts in the right one, and then he writes the bill. These are the components not working well, and these are the replaced ones, this much cost, plus service charge, total this much. The mother was there in the kitchen, she comes out, gives the money to that mechanic, and the mechanic goes away. Now this boy was watching everything. Next time, when the mother said, "Oh my dear son, go and wash the car," The boy immediately went and started washing the car and all that. And after washing the car, he went to his room, did something and came back. My dear child, go and cut the lawn, grass. Again this boy went, did everything. Very prompt. Not even wasting any time. So mother was watching this. How come this fellow is so prompt and perfect? Well, next day, this boy goes to the school. Mother comes to his room to clean, and there he finds a list. For washing the car, 10 rupees. For cutting grass, 10 rupees. Total 100 rupees. One list is there. Mother smiled. In the evening, this boy came, very curious, anxious. What is there? Do I have the money? And there he finds, yes, there is a money. 100 rupee note is there. Along with it, another slip. And now he reads the slip. For giving birth to you, 0. For washing you whenever you become dirty, 0. For educating you, 0. For feeding you, 0. For taking care of you whenever you fell sick, 0. Total 0. Along with it, 100 rupee note. Now you can imagine the condition of that child. He goes, hugs the mother and says, Mother, I am really sorry. Now this story may be wonderful, but remember, who is this child? Each and every one of us. We get so much, but we forget it. This is called taking things for granted. So much the mother has done for the child, but the child remembers nothing. He remembers his cutting lawn and washing car. Yes, he remembers. Isn't it? Every moment of our existence on this earth, just remember how much God is taking care of us. And how many times we remember Him. We hardly even remember. Rather, we even question His existence. That is the height of foolishness. We question His existence. Arey, because He is existing, you are existing. Isn't it? It is as though the wave is questioning the existence of ocean. Where is ocean? I don't see any ocean. This is our condition. The very existence in you is none other than God. Anyway, we will come to that later. So what is the first step in spirituality? The first step in spirituality is developing this kind of gratitude. There the spirituality begins. Spirituality begins with gratitude. Without gratitude, it is impossible to progress in spirituality. And once you have developed this kind of gratitude, the rest, everything falls in place. Ishvara Arpanam becomes natural for you. Bhagwan, you have given me so much. What can I do for you? So now Bhagwan also has expectation. What is the expectation? Oh my dear child, you must live a dharmic life. This is his expectation. How can I please God? There is a way. Why does Bhagwan come again and again taking avatar to this world? What is the purpose of avatar? Dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Isn't it? So what is the work of God? Dharma samsthapana, establishing righteousness, is the work of God. Now, what is the greatest service I can do to God? The greatest service is, let me give a hand to God. Of course, He doesn't need it. The best thing I can do is, let me become an instrument in the hands of God. Oh Lord, these gifts you have given, I also want to give you a gift to you. As Puja Gurudev used to say, what you have is His gift to you. What you do with what you have is your gift to Him. So let me convert my life as a beautiful gift to Him. So how can I do that? By living a dharmic life, a righteous life, a clean life, a moral life, a good life, a life of service. So in this way, what am I doing? I am pleasing my Creator. This is called Ishvara Arpana Buddhi. Now the question is, how will I know whether God is pleased with me or not? Natural question. Because He will not come in front and tell, oh my dear child, I am very happy with you. Sabash. He won't say that. How will I know? There should be some means of communication, isn't it? How will I know whether I am a good child in the eyes of the Lord? For that, you have to just look within. Look at the state of your mind. After performing an action, if the mind is peaceful, understand he is happy with you. After performance of action, if the mind is disturbed, what has to be understood? He is not happy with you. Bas. The state of the mind is direct indication of his mood. Always you will find when your actions are wrong, when your actions are unrighteous, when your actions are selfish, when your actions are immoral, you will find the disturbance in the mind. Always. So what is it that we have to do? Before you perform action, say, let us say, in the beginning of the day, sit for meditation. What is meditation? Nothing. Just look at the state of the mind, keep it peaceful. Again, in the evening, again sit. Spend time alone, watching the mind, being with God. Look within. And you will always find whatever has created strong impression in the day, that will come out first. It will always happen. So, beginning of the day, spend time with God. End of the day, spend time with God. And you will always find that every wrong action which you have done, it has created certain negative impressions in the mind, expressing itself as disturbance. Remember one thing, peace of mind is one thing which you have no control. It has to come from Him alone. You just cannot command peace. It has to come from Him. And what determines that peace? Your own actions, your own deeds, your own words, your way of behavior. That will determine whether this peace will stay with you or not. So now let us assume that I have done something wrong and because of which the mind is disturbed. What are we supposed to do? Remember, God is our father and mother. The only thing you have to do is just openly admit, Bhagavān, I admit that I have done such and such mistake. Please forgive me. I will try my best not to repeat it. That's all what you have to do. And then within moments you will find the eyes filled with tears, the heart filled with love for God, and everything is washed clean. The mind is fresh. And what have you to understand when the mind is fresh and peaceful? Understand He has forgiven you. Bas. Bhagwan doesn't say never commit mistakes. No. What He says is, fine, out of your vasana, out of your past samskaras, you may commit something wrong. You may blurt out something wrong. You may hurt others. Yes, all those things are accepted. But never turn a blind eye towards your imperfection. Accept it. Wholeheartedly accept it. Become naked in front of God. Don't try to hide anything. Don't try to justify your imperfection. This is what the ego does. Ego will always try to justify. Bhagwan, I became angry because he was like that. He deserved that. I gave him to because he deserved that. No. At the seat of meditation, say, Bhagwan, what I have done is wrong. Out of my own lack of control, I did it. Sorry. I accept, I admit my imperfection. I will try my best to come out. This way, start a communication. Remember, every state of the mind is a coded message from God. It's a coded message. You have to decode it. That's all. There is something which is telling you. In fact, every moment God is trying to guide you. He's telling you, He's advising you, He's guiding you. My dear child, not this way, this way, this way. But many times what happens, we don't listen to it. Remember, only when your attention is within, you will be able to listen to His voice. Otherwise, it is impossible. But normally what happens, we are so busy in this world, our attention is totally extrovert outside. So therefore, we are not able to listen to this guidance from the divine. So this, we must make it a practice. To look within, to listen to His sweet voice. And every day when you do it, it becomes a habit to you. It becomes very natural to you to look within. In fact, a time comes when even when you are performing your worldly duties, a part of the mind is always tuned to within. When that thing comes, you are safe. But in the beginning, it is difficult, admitted. So therefore, in the beginning, it is always advisable to spend some time alone, only for this. Sitting with God, in the company of God, all alone. Make it a habit, morning, evening. And slowly, you will come to know lots and lots of imperfections, samskaras, vasanas, stored within. And once you are able to detect it, within no time it goes away. As long as we don't detect our imperfection, it never goes. Isn't it? For detecting it, you have to practice this looking within. So all this comes under Karma Yoga. Ishvara Arpitam. Next term is Na Ichchaya Kritam. Actions must be performed, duties must be performed, but many times what happens is we perform action based on our likes and dislikes. So what does Bhagavan say? Na Ichchaya Kritam. So Na Ichchaya Kritam with respect to the action performed and with respect to the results. Both Na Ichchaya Kritam. We will discuss it separately. While performing action, na ichchaya. While receiving the result, na ichcha. Ichcha means desire. So while performing action, what are the dangers one is exposed to? Many times when we perform action based on likes and dislikes, not based on what is right and what is wrong. Our action should be guided by rights and wrong. Puja Guruji used to say, our action should be Shastra Anusari, not Vasana Anusari. Our actions must be guided by scriptures, by what is right, what is wrong. Many times I don't like it, but you have to do it because it's your duty. Many times I like something, but it is not your duty. You must refrain. This is called Na Ichchaya. This term is very, very deep. In Bhagavad Gītā, the term used is Sangha. Here the term used is Ichcha. Both are one and the same. So there Bhagavan says, Sangam Tyaktva Dhananjaya. Perform your duties. Giving up your attachment. Now we have to understand, some few examples will make it clear. How we tend to perform action based on our vasanas, based on our samskaras, based on our attachments. Let us take an example. So let us assume that there is a teacher who is correcting the paper. Let us say 10 standard exam paper. So normally they don't know who is this student, etc., etc. What you call the number, roll number, etc. is covered, name will not be there. But let us assume that there is a teacher who is correcting the paper, and by seeing the handwriting she could understand that this is my son. Because handwriting any mother will understand. And she has understood, this is my son's paper. Now, na ichchaya kritam means what? Naturally, as a mother, she wants her son to score more. And let us assume that her correction is final. Her marks are final. Now remember, he is a 10 standard. Any mother will want her son to score maximum. Now, which role should she adopt as a karma yogi? Role of a mother or role of a teacher? Which role? Role of a teacher. Naichya Krita means naturally you have your attachment to your son, accepted. You want him to score more, accepted. But at that time, what action will please God? As a mother, I want to make my son score more. So many of the mistakes I will just put correct and give marks. But will that please God? Never. So then you have to take up the bigger role. So whenever there is a role conflict, now in this case, role of a mother, role of a teacher. Which is the role which is bigger? Role of a teacher is bigger than role of a mother. So I must have that ability to detach myself from the lower goal. This is called Sangam. Sangam Tyaktva. I must be able to detach from my lower role, and I must be able to perform actions taking the higher role. When you do this, you are literally performing actions. You are literally an instrument in the hands of the Lord. This is called na ichchaya kritam. There is something which I like, but there is something else which is right. What I should do? That which is right, I should do. Then I am becoming an instrument in the hands of God. Let me see the things through the eyes of God. He is the ultimate father and mother. He is the absolutely impartial one. He has created the world through His eyes. Let me learn to make decisions in life. So every time a karma yogi asks this question, God, will you be pleased if I do this? If there is yes, then he does. God, will you be pleased if I do this? If the answer is no, but I want to do it, he won't do it. That is a true sign of a karma yogi. His goal is only one: am I pleasing God or not? That's it. With every action of mine, is God happy with me or not? This is the only question he asks. He never asks, will I get the result or not? This is not the question he asks. But what is the mistake we make? Our only question is, will I get what I want or not? Isn't it? Such a person is called a karmi. We are discussing about karma yogi. Na ichchaya kritam, performing actions not compelled by our vasanas, not under the pressure of our likes and dislikes, but guided by the Shastras. Actions performed for the sake of God, to please God. Then that becomes karma yoga. If this way you live, Bhagavan says, chitta shodhakam, your mind becomes purer day by day. And as the mind becomes purer and purer, the higher truths in you is revealed. And what is the highest truth? Your pure consciousness, which is infinite, which is immortal. This is the great truth which is revealed. It is not revealed to all gross minds. It is revealed only to pure minds. It is revealed only to those who have intelligently lived their life. It is revealed to only those who consciously make every attempt to please Him. Then Bhagavan says, right, this child of mine is fit to know the highest. Come on, he lifts it. He is lifted higher and higher. Chitta shodhakam, and ultimately mukti sadhakam. He becomes liberated. He comes to know himself to be the infinite, immortal self of all beings. He comes to know that he is Sat, Chit, Anand. What is the price to be paid? The price to be paid is conscious living, moment to moment, in remembrance of God. Are you ready to pay this price? Then of course you will get the highest. This is in essence Karma Yoga. More of it we will see tomorrow. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhave Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om.